Surprise, it's me again. 2 videos in the same day. I know this is crazy, especially if you watched my last video, you knew this one was coming. Today is June 27th, 2024. Free agency begins on July 1st. The NHL draft is coming up in just a couple of days here, and the Lightning have a salary cap situation to deal with. Here's where we are, and here are my thoughts. I showed this in the Ryan McDonough video, but here is the Tampa Bay Lightning's cap hit. Soon to be RIP cap friendly, you will be missed. The salary cap is going up to $88 million this year, which is a huge relief considering the pieces that they need to fill and or re-sign, but still going to be a difficult path ahead. And that path ahead is made difficult by this. Yeah, this. I'll do a quick rundown of this while I have it on screen, but the Tampa Bay Lightning have a salary cap this season of $88 million. They have used a projected cap hit right now of $82,665,000, giving them an available salary cap space of $5,335,000. Were this a normal offseason where they have just a couple of free agents, it's probably not a big deal, but where they actually stand this offseason is they got a decent number of free agents that either need to re-sign or they need to fill those gaps, them being Hayden Fleury, defenseman, Matt Dumba, defenseman, Calvin DeHaan, defenseman, Austin Watson, forward, Tyler Mott, forward, Anthony Duclair, forward, and of course, Steven Stamkos. All in all, what I'm thinking for this offseason is that the Lightning need to either re-sign or acquire 2, 3, maybe 4 forwards, 1, 2, maybe 3 defensemen, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if you end up replacing Jonas Johansson at backup goalie, but you know, that's a thing I'm willing to concede because you have him at a pretty good contract right now. But the Lightning are strapped for draft picks. This is the result of all the success they've had over the course of the last 7 years, winning back-to-back cups, going to a third, making the trades and the acquisitions they need to in order to have that level of playoff success. You don't have draft picks anymore. You don't have a second-round draft pick until 2026. You don't have a third-round draft pick until 2025. Basically meaning that if you have any young talent that you want to invest in, they are probably already in your organization somewhere in the AHL, in your farm system, wherever they happen to be. Or you're drafting somebody in the next couple of years and they're not going to see any ice time until, let's say, 2030. And unfortunately, the Lightning aren't exactly filled to the brim with existing prospects that are ready to take NHL ice at this point. We saw a few of them in this past season. Valtteri Merila, he looked pretty good out there on the ice. Alex Barré-Boulet, he's had his moments both here and in Seattle. Declan Carlisle, he just got re-signed. I could see him taking a few games this year at defenseman. Emil Lilleberg shows a lot of potential, but we'll see what happens there. And goalie Hugo Onfelt, I don't know where he fits into this. It's probably a third or a fourth goalie type situation. I don't think he's ready to be the backup, but it's worth considering that he's waiting in the wings somewhere. But here's the deal. The Lightning have a lot of holes to fill and not a whole lot of money to do it. So let me take a crack at this as clearly a trained and seasoned NHL general manager. If you watched my last video, you know that I am in favor of re-signing Steven Stamkos. At what cap hit exactly? That's a really tough question. He was just making 8.5. I could see him making that. I could see him making up to 9.5 within this organization, but I think Julien Brisebois is going to try to talk him down to somewhere around the $7 million range. But let's assume that he signs for 8.5 once again. You don't have that money. You only have 5.335, so you need to come up with another $2.6-ish million somewhere. I also think that you should re-sign Anthony Duclair because he is dynamic on that top line alongside Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov, but I think his cap hit is going to be a problem. He made $3 million, I think, last year, and he's definitely going to be worth at least that going forward. I think you're not going to be able to afford him. Like, I want both Stamkos and Duclair, but I just don't see where you can possibly get the money without moving a major piece away. But if I am indeed trying to keep both Stamkos and Duclair, it basically means that I'm letting Tyler Mott and Austin Watson, Calvin DeHaan, Matt Dumba, and Hayden Fleury all walk. But letting those guys walk doesn't actually do anything for you. The best that you can hope for is to trade away some of those names for their signing rights and hope to get some draft picks out of it. Now, granted, you're probably not getting a ton of draft picks out of any of those guys. You're probably getting 6th and 7th round picks, not even in this year's draft. So you're stacking futures at that point. I think that's what you got to do. If it's between trading away signing rights for draft picks or letting them hit free agency, letting them walk away for nothing, I think you got to find some way to get a deal done. But there are three names that I think you have to trade away, not only for cap relief, for a good old cap dump, but I think you need to get something in return for them. The first being Tanner Jeannot at a cap hit of $2.665 million. Look, it's time to be done, Tanner. The experiment has not worked. The Tampa Bay Lightning gave up way too much for you in 5 draft picks and an actual good NHL player who fell on some hard times because of the whole Team Canada incident. So maybe he wasn't such a good NHL player. Regardless, I don't think that trade has worked out how Julien Brisebois has wanted. I think it's time to admit that that was a crappy trade. It's not a good player fit for this organization. There are other organizations that can use him quite well. In fact, I have heard the Calgary Flames would have some interest, and I think he would fit in really, really well there. Number 2, I think you get rid of Nick Perbix, even though that leaves another opening on your blue line. Nothing about him really blew me away this season. A lot of times he felt more like a liability on the ice, and he was leaving his defense partners out to dry because of the way that he played. Again, this is not necessarily an indication of him as a player or him as a person. I don't think he fits in this system very well with the defense partners very well. Maybe some of that is coaching. I will hang that on my head if that's indeed the case, but I just don't see him being a good fit in this organization. I think it's time to say goodbye to Nick Perbix. And lastly, the one that really, really hurts, if you want to keep Steven Stamkos and have an outside shot of keeping Anthony Duclair, I think you got to get rid of Erik Cernak. He has a $5.2 million cap hit that extends through the 2030-2031 season, including, starting in 2027, a 16-team no-trade clause that kicks in, again, in a couple of years here. For a guy that, as good as he is, as much of a shutdown defenseman as he is, as much as I like him on the right side, I feel like that's going to be the piece that has to give if you want to keep Steven Stamkos. The re-signing of Ryan McDonagh kind of forces this move as well. Ryan McDonagh doesn't play on the right side, so you're thinking, Sammy, you're crazy, but hear me out. Ryan McDonagh just came back for, $6.25 million, 6.5, something in that ballpark. If you don't have that contract, you keep Erik Cernak. But along with that, your left side of the blue line now looks like, on any given day, in any given order, Victor Hedman, Mikhail Sergachev, and Ryan McDonagh. I'm not sure it's terribly important who is on your right side if that's your left side up and down, game in and game out. You're going to retain Darren Radish. You are most likely going to retain Maxwell Crozier. I think you go out and get another veteran defenseman for under $1 million cap hit for the right side to play on the third pairing, and you're probably good. It's not the most stout defense pairings that you've ever had in your life, but again, Hedman, Sergachev, McDonagh on the left, that's pretty good. But in my mind, you're letting 5 players walk. You're trading away another 3. So you got to fill in some gaps here. What can you do in addition to re-signing Steven Stamkos and hopefully Anthony Duclair? On the forward group, I don't know that you're necessarily going and testing the free agent market all too terribly much. I think you're probably going to end up promoting Valtteri Merila. You're going to bring Alex Barré-Boulet in for a couple of games, Gage Gonsalves, Ethan Gauthier. I think there are things you can do within your organization to kind of lessen this need to hit the free agent market. But if you are going to go after somebody, there were 2 names that I came up with. One being Eli or Ellie, I forget how to pronounce it, Tolvanen from Seattle. Think he could be a good fit, but the other one was Sam Lafferty out of Vancouver. He just got traded away to Chicago, so he's kind of off the board now. And then on the defensive side, I think there are 4 names you could potentially target. Admittedly, the first one I wrote down before he won the Stanley Cup with the Panthers in Dmitry Kulikov. He's going to get paid, and he's going to get paid more than the $1 million that he's currently making, so he's probably off the board at this point. You'd go after Travis Dermott with the Utah Hockey Club. He was only making $800,000 last season. Not a bad option for a second or third pair right side defenseman. If you wanted to spend a little bit more and bolster your right side on the defense, maybe give somebody a number 1 right defenseman slot. How about looking at Sean Walker? I know he was a trade deadline target that didn't end up panning out. He's currently worth $2.65 million, so a little bit more expensive than you're probably comfortable with, but worth looking into. Or since they've already signed Ryan McDonough, you could just continue this nostalgia train and go out and reacquire Kevin Shattenkirk, who was playing in Boston last season at a cap hit of just barely over $1 million. Get the whole gang back together. Let's see if they can do it again. All told, the Lightning are going to just barely get under the cap again this season, and it's going to look very, very different. Like I said, most of the names that I mentioned as free agents, I think they're gone. They're gone. I'm hopeful for Steven Stamkos. I'm hopeful for Anthony Duclair, but if I have to pick between the two, keep Stamkos, get rid of the other 6, let them walk, and try to fill out the team from there. All I can say is that it's going to be a very interesting couple of days coming up with free agency starting on July 1st, with the NHL draft coming up over my birthday, no big deal, on June 29th. Hey, you know what would be a great birthday present for me? A contract for Steven Stamkos! But we will see what happens. I will be here to make videos about the moves that the Lightning make in this offseason. I have guesses, but of course, I'm not an insider, I'm not a professional, so this is just my gut feelings at this point. But if you want to see my reactions to all these things, stick around, hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk about it some more here in the very near future. And make sure you leave me a comment down in the comment box below about what moves you think the Lightning should make in this offseason. Are they going to keep Steven Stamkos? Are they going to keep any of their pending free agents? Or are they really just going to blow it up and kind of start over a new era without the captain? Leave your comments down in the comment box. But until I see you again, remember, go Bolts! And the draft is really, really soon. Anybody want to do a watch party?